He's best known for allegedly being involved in the murder of American engineer Nick Berg, which was also filmed and subsequently became one of the most well-known beheading videos from the time, once again making mainstream headlines across the globe. Primarily, the terror groups would upload the videos to crudely designed websites. The videos would then spread from there, being shared via email by internet users, as well as being ripped and re-uploaded by shop sites such as Ogrish and Rocket.com. So-called execution videos were a staple of the war on terror, and terror groups, primarily in Iraq, popularized the trend of filmed executions among extremist groups. While they never started this tactic, in fact, it was the Chechen rebels who seemingly first adopted the method of weaponized violence in the First and Second Chechen Wars, by leaving execution tapes on the bodies of dead Russian soldiers for their comrades to find. However, it was certainly terror groups in Iraq who put the topic of filmed executions into the public zeitgeist. As the war on terror began to fizzle out in the early 2010s, a new boogeyman appeared at the forefront of our news feeds, ISIS, or the Islamic State from Iraq and Syria. Its origins were in the Jaish al-Taifa al-Mansoura organization, founded by Abu Omar al-Baghdadi in 2004, which fought alongside al-Qaeda during the Iraqi insurgency. However, it wasn't until 2014 when the group finally achieved their aim of becoming a globally recognized terror organization. In 2014, the group's militants managed to fiercely take control of territory in both northern western Iraq as well as eastern Syria, taking advantage of the ongoing Syrian civil war. By the end of 2015, the group were in control of areas totaling an estimated population of 12 million people. Under ISIS, general civilians were terrorized by the group, with any misdemeanor being severely punished. The group ruled under its extremist interpretation of Islamic law. At its height in the mid-2010s, it was estimated that ISIS ran on an annual budget of $1 billion and were in command of around 30,000 fighters. At this time, ISIS also flooded the internet with various forms of propaganda videos, mainly relating to the executions of those who they deemed as enemies of the cause. However, the ISIS-style execution videos were different, unlike anything we have seen from any other group. Unlike the original execution videos stemming from the war on terror, or videos filmed by Mexican drug cartels, ISIS murder videos were filmed and edited in the highest quality, giving them almost a movie-type aesthetic. ISIS videos are very frequently heavily edited with music, sound effects, graphics, slow motion segments, various camera angles, and very often follow a story-type format in order to facilitate their propaganda attempts. The ISIS execution videos that flooded the internet usually just show the executions of said captives. However, they are very often clipped from longer ISIS videos, essentially cutting out the narrative segments of these videos. Sometimes ISIS videos can total 10 or even 20 minutes in length, with executions spliced in between the propaganda segments. Today, we will delve into the depraved world of ISIS and will explore some of their most depraved acts caught on camera. But nevertheless, let's get into the topic at hand. Number 1, the Siberian Slaughterer. In December of 2015, Russia was shocked by the release of an ISIS video that depicted the execution of a Russian national. However, what made the case make mainstream headlines in Russia was the fact that the executioner was himself a Russian man who had been radicalized and recruited by ISIS. Anatoly Zemlyanka, who was dubbed in the media as Jihadi Vlad, or the Siberian Slaughterer, was born in January of 1987 in the city of Noyabris, 230 miles south of the Arctic Circle in the Siberia region of Russia. Anatoly was the son of an Orthodox Christian mother who ran a kitchenware shop while he was growing up, though it is uncertain whether his father was in his life. From very early on, Anatoly was described as very average, with a former teacher describing him as an unremarkable pupil whose exam results were satisfactory at the very best. His former teacher stated he was a bad student. His average score was, let's say, unsatisfactory, or at the very best, satisfactory. He wasn't a hooligan, quite the opposite, demure and very ordinary. As Anatoly moved into adulthood, it was clear that his life was heading in an uncertain direction. In his later school years and young adult life, Anatoly would become fascinated by Adolf Hitler and his Nazi rhetoric. A classmate stated, "I can't say he was a complete fascist skinhead, but he paid attention to it and spoke about skinheads with respect," a friend said. He liked the out-of-superficial side of it all. For example, he liked the Nazi salutes. He also spoke in a negative tone about non-ethnic Russian people, but then sometime later, he abruptly changed his attitude towards them. Without doubt, Anatoly's obsession with Nazi ideology would prove to be a huge red flag, displaying his propensity of being sucked in by extremist rhetoric. While bouncing from job to job in his adulthood, Anatoly felt like life was passing him by, and he seemed to be constantly searching for meaning. He would soon take up the sport of kickboxing. Local coach Oleg Zinner at the Bayern Sports Club said he wasn't regular. He came from time to time. He was a handsome tall guy, very muscular, but as a sportsman, he turned out to be quite weak, rotten. Other guys would pull themselves together after a defeat and rush to fight back, but he wasn't that kind. Not a fighter's character. He would come time to time, but sometimes he wouldn't be seen for a while. At around 25 or 26 years old, Anatoly would convert to Islam. Not much is known about his conversion, though it was more than likely fueled by his desire for acceptance and to be part of something bigger than himself. As the months passed, he would begin to consume extremist propaganda content uploaded by ISIS, which led him down a deep, dark, violent rabbit hole. In 2013, Anatoly would then travel to Syria with a one-way ticket to further ingrain himself and be a part of ISIS. It's also said that he left with a girlfriend of his. For the next 2 years, Anatoly would develop connections with ISIS, allegedly training with them to be a competent fighter. In late 2015, he would become Russia's most wanted man after the recorded murder of alleged Russian spy, Magomed Kasiev. Magomed Kasiev was born in Chelyabinsk in the Russian Ural Mountains, but was orphaned at age 9 years old and was raised by adoptive parents in Chechnya. The following year, he became a Muslim and went on to study law at the Maykop Polytechnic College in the small Russian region of Adgia. Kasiev, born Yevgeny Yudin before taking the name of his adoptive mother, is said to have ended up in Syria after being recruited by Russia's Federal Security Service, the FSB. His recruitment into the FSB was interesting to say the least. In February of 2014, he was caught in possession of a large amount of prescription medication and was known to have links to local drug dealers. Kasiev is said to have done a deal with the FSB to avoid prosecution, it's claimed. He was then sent undercover to ISIS via Turkey, and he was giving the intelligence services information from behind enemy lines. At least that is what was alleged. The FSB, after the murder, waved down that he was a spy monitoring ISIS activity in Syria, though they never flat out refuted the claim. It was also revealed that Kasiev had a half-brother called Alexei, who serves in the Russian military and was potentially fighting terrorist threats abroad at the time. Chechen leader Ramzan Kadyrov said Kasiev could have been an informer for Russian secret services, while also laying blame for his capture and murder with the West, claiming, "We can say with some certainty that in this case there is a trace of the CIA." He claimed that Western intelligence agencies share information with the leadership of ISIS on data on persons who perform certain tasks for the Moscow secret services. Kadyrov stated, that the murder of Magomed Kasiev is a propaganda campaign by ISIS and their patrons among Western intelligence agencies. In December of 2015, the fate of Magomed Kasiev was revealed to the world in a gruesome ISIS propaganda video that, in total, is just over 7 minutes in length. The video itself is titled, "You Shall Be Disappointed and Humiliated, O Russians." Most of the video itself is actually an interview with Captive Magomed that takes place in a dark room. He's forced to answer questions where he claims to be a spy working for the FSB, as well as detailing other information about his life. After the interview segment, the video then transitions to the execution scene, which is around 2 minutes long. As the execution scene begins, you see Anatoly standing behind Magomed, as Magomed is kneeling on the ground with his hands tied behind his back while wearing an orange jumpsuit. Anatoly is branding a combat knife, which he is waving around as he reads out a statement. In the statement, he directly threatens the Russian population and politicians. He states, "Russian people, you will not find security in your home. We will kill your sons for each son you kill here, and we will destroy your homes for each home you destroy here." As Magomed awaits his demise, he remains calm and stoic as Anatoly continues to read out the statement. Once Anatoly is done talking, he quickly then grabs Magomed by the hair, which startles Magomed. Then, he takes the serrated blade and slices the victim's throat. You hear Magomed begin to scream as blood immediately sprays out the laceration on his neck. The execution from here is then heavily edited, showing different segments and angles of the beheading. As far as ISIS standards, this is actually the most graphic video due to the editing. The last shot is that of Anatoly standing with his knife still in hand as the camera pans down to the severed head of Magomed. While the case isn't actually the most graphic, the story of Anatoly's radicalization is interesting to say the least. It goes to show that some people possibly may be more susceptible of being recruited into extremist ideology. With Anatoly, I don't think it mattered what the ideology was. He went from Nazism to religious extremism, and although they are different ideologies, they do share similarities. Regardless of ideologies, I think people like Anatoly will always gravitate towards such communities. Number 2, head will roll. The context behind this clip in particular isn't well known, and I'm presuming it to be from a longer ISIS propaganda video. The only potential information that I've possibly found surrounding the clip is that the victims in the video are accused of being Syrian spies, though again, this may be false. The video is much more graphic than the first clip we covered, and multiple victims are involved. The video itself is 2 minutes and 6 seconds in length, and as you play the video, you are greeted with the sight of the victims, who, like in all ISIS videos, are wearing orange jumpsuits and have their hands tied behind their backs. They are being kept captive in a metal cage. As you play the video, you see close-ups of the captives' faces as they wait for their executions. An ISIS fighter then walks up to the cage, unlocks it, and drags out one of the prisoners, leading him away from the cage and bringing him to an ISIS fighter who is dressed in all black, before making the victim kneel down on the ground while leaning forwards so the back of his neck is exposed. The man in black is carrying a sword, which is called a scimitar. It's curvy, looks heavy, and is extremely sharp. The man in black then lifts the sword above his head and then swings it down on the back of the captive's neck, and in one hit, he completely decapitates the victim. The video then shows in quick succession each of the captives being decapitated, all in one hit with the sword. The video has been heavily edited, and you hear sword sound effects added to each decapitation. Some of the decapitations are in slow motion, and you see the blood spray at least a couple of feet from several of the victims. It's incredibly high definition. You see 8 men get brutally decapitated in quick succession. Before then, you see the ninth and final man get his head severed. He's led out of the cage and made to kneel on the ground. He then looks at the 8 deceased victims, all of which have been arranged into a semicircle with their heads resting on their bodies. He looks at the dead decapitated bodies one last time before lowering his head, and then the executioner swings down the sword, decapitating him. Multiple jets of blood spray out from the victim's neck, and as his body falls to the side, the blood covers one of the ISIS fighters' combat boots. With all of the men dead, you are then given multiple close-up shots of the carnage. You get close-up views of the insides of the victims' necks. You see the windpipes and arteries that are still pumping blood. You are also shown under the chin of one of the decapitated heads, and you see that one of the victims' tongues is hanging down under the jaw. It's incredibly graphic. In another shot, you see the eyes of a decapitated head rolled to the side before the eyes then close. Despite the over-the-top editing, the video is still extremely graphic, bloody and visceral, and the systematic nature of it is somewhat similar to the infamous ISIS human slaughterhouse video. Number 3, the cycle of violence. This clip is different from the previous two mentioned. In fact, it's actually from Africa, supposedly filmed by an ISIS-affiliated group. It's unclear as to what country the video is from, but it's possibly from Western Africa, maybe Nigeria, Niger or Chad. Of course, in terms of terror groups in Africa, Boko Haram are the most well-known and arguably the most violent, but a whole host of others exist. A commenter on the site where I watched the video claims that the perpetrators to be from ISWAP, or Islamic State, West Africa Province, which is a splinter group from Boko Haram. ISWAP's origins date back to the emergence of Boko Haram, a Salafite jihadist movement centered in Borno State in northeastern Nigeria. The movement launched an insurgency against the Nigerian government following an unsuccessful uprising in 2009, aiming at establishing an Islamic State in northern Nigeria and neighbouring regions of Cameroon, Chad and Niger. Its de facto leader at the time, Abubakar Shekau, attempted to increase his international standing among Islamists by allying with the prominent Islamic State in March of 2015. However, ISIS would soon become disenfranchised with Boko Haram, and in particular its leader, Abubakar Shekau. Despite orders by the ISIS Central Command to stop using women and children as their source bombers, as well as refrain from mass killings of civilians, Shekau refused to change his tactics. Researcher Ayman Jawad al-Tamimi summarized that the Boko Haram leader proved to be too extreme even by Islamic State standards. Shekau had always refused to fully submit to ISIS Central Command, and the latter consequently removed him as a leader of ISWAP in August of 2016. Shekau responded by breaking with ISIS Central Command, but many of the rebels stayed loyal to ISIS. He would sever ties with ISIS and would continue to lead his own terror faction, Boko Haram. However, the rebels who left his cause to stay with ISIS went on to become Islamic State, West Africa Province. The two groups have fought on and off over the last few years. Regardless, some suggest the videos be from one of the two aforementioned groups. The video itself is 1 minute and 16 seconds in length, and unlike official ISIS clips, this video isn't edited and is shot in extremely poor quality. As you play the video, you see a man who is wearing a blue shirt laying on the dirt ground, and he's surrounded by multiple armed men, some of which are wearing masks. The executioner in the video appears to be Middle Eastern and not African, though due to the quality of the footage, I cannot be totally sure. The killer is carrying a rusty-looking machete, and immediately it's clear that he's attempting to slice the captive's throat. The captive tries his very best to fight back. He rolls away from the machete-wielding killer. However, another man wearing orange boots steps on the victim's chest so that he cannot move. The murderer then moves in and places his palm on the victim's forehead with one hand, while taking the machete in the other and then attempting to slash the man's throat. The victim tries to talk to the executioner as he is slicing back and forth. Initially, The blade doesn't even appear to cut as it's so blunt. However, after a while of slicing back and forth, you suddenly see the blade sink into the victim's throat and blood immediately begins to leak. The victim lets out terrifying deep groans, which progressively get louder and louder and more animalistic. He rolls around violently, doing his best to survive the situation. However, multiple men then hold him down. His screams become mixed with the sounds of gurgling blood, and they progressively get deeper in pitch. The killer continues to slice away. You don't see the victim die on camera. However, the video jump cuts to, quite frankly, a depressing scene which truly signifies the cycle of violence and extremism in its purest form. The executioner stands next to the body of a victim who now appears dead. The cut in his throat is deep, and he lays in a puddle of his own blood. The killer reads out a statement as a young child who looks to be 6 or 7 years old hacks away at the deceased man's neck, attempting to behead him. As the young child swings the blade at the man's throat, nerves cause the man's arms to jolt each time he is struck. The scene is quite frankly nightmarish. Intermittently, the young child gets tired and takes short breaks before resuming to hacking away at the man's neck. Quite frankly, this video is just utter depression. The video ends as the child is still hacking away. But anyway, that is the video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you can enjoy this sort of content, more than likely this will be my last iFix video, I would say. I think I've done 2 previous to this, and more than likely this will be the last one. Maybe one more as a bonus video, I don't know, but yeah. Anyway, hopefully you enjoyed the video. If you're new here, hit subscribe, and also if you want to get in touch and recommend cases, please feel free to drop me a DM on Twitter. That is the best place to get me. A link to my Twitter will be in the pinned comments. Also my Twitch, a link to my Twitch will be in the pinned comments, and also a link to my Patreon, where we will be continuing to upload exclusive content as and when. I'm still debating, I'm throwing ideas around the types of content I want to do on Patreon, but we have recently uploaded a true crime type video on Patreon, so if you want to check that out, feel free. But anyway, as always, stay safe, and I'll catch you on the next one.
Where can you get the best deals selling your car in Western New York? At the Basil Family Dealerships. The Basil Family Dealerships will buy your car from you, even if you don't buy one from us. Basil makes it easy.
Basil made it so easy. They gave me $2,500 more than the competition.
Basil will evaluate your vehicle and give you top dollar for it on the spot. Visit BasilCars.com now and find out how. Basil, so much more than just great deals.
Get up to 20% off your purchases during Raymore and Flanagan's Buy More, Save More sale. Or explore our financing options to buy now and pay later. Shop the Buy More, Save More sale at Raymore and Flanagan and come home to comfort.
Welcome once again to Leto's Law. Here's Steve Leto.
There'll be a brief ad at the end of this video. Now, we are living in a surveilled society. We're under surveillance all the time, and it ain't getting better. It's getting worse. You might go, Steve, how could it get worse? Well, how your FedEx driver is helping cops spy on you. That's the headline from the Daily Mail. Alex Hammer wrote this, but widely reported, including Forbes magazine and elsewhere, that FedEx is now working with the police, using cameras to keep an eye on you and me. FedEx using AI-powered cameras installed on its trucks to help aid police investigations, a new report has revealed. The popular firm has partnered with a $4 billion surveillance startup based in Georgia called Flock Safety. Flock Safety. You may say, Steve, I've heard of that name before, Flock. Have you mentioned it before? Why, yes, I have. They specialize in automated license plate recognition and video surveillance, and they already have a fleet of around 40,000 cameras across 4,000 cities in 40 different states. So much of the country already is being surveilled by Flock cameras being used by various governmental authorities. FedEx has teamed up with a company to monitor its facilities across the U.S., but under the deal, it's also sharing its Flock surveillance feeds with law enforcement, and is believed to be one of 4 multi-billion-dollar private companies with this arrangement, which is leading critics to liken the move to rolling out a mass surveillance network, as it emerged that some local police forces are also sharing their Flock feeds with FedEx. So, everybody's watching everybody and sharing the information with everybody. A policy analyst at the ACLU told the Virginia Pilot, there's a simple principle we've always had in this country, which is that the government doesn't get to watch everybody all the time just in case somebody commits a crime. These cameras are being deployed with such density that it's like GPS tracking everyone. In response to Forbes report that FedEx is part of Flock's surveillance system, he told the outlet it raises questions about why a private company would have privileged access to data that normally is only available to law enforcement. He went on to bill it as a profoundly disconcerting concept. Now, the safety cameras are used to track vehicles by their license plates, as well as the make, model, and color of the cars. Other identifying characteristics are also monitored, such as dents and even bumper stickers. And that is, of course, about the cameras that are, set up all around places that pick up traffic. A staff attorney at the Electronic Frontier Foundation warned that FedEx's participation could prove problematic because private firms are not subject to the same transparency laws as cops. This, she told Forbes, could leave the public in the dark, while at the same time expanding a sort of a mass surveillance network. The Shelby County Sheriff's Office in Tennessee confirmed a partnership with Flock in an email to Forbes. We share reads from our Flock license plate readers with FedEx in the same manner we share the data with other law enforcement agencies locally, regionally, and nationally. Now you'll notice there's a word in there that doesn't belong here. He says we share the reads with FedEx in the same manner we share the data with other law enforcement agencies. And of course, FedEx is not a law enforcement agency, so why would they be listed that way? But he also confirmed his department had access to the Flock feeds from FedEx. So he says, look, they give us information, we give them information. Yeah, we're all getting along here. The participation was unmasked after Forbes found the name of the force on publicly available lists of data sharing partners, along with others such as the Pittsburgh Police Department in Indiana, just outside of Indianapolis. Pittsburgh Police Chief reportedly did not comment on why his department is participating, but insisted the force had not requested access to the private system. Only those listed under law enforcement, he said. Now, an assistant chief of Greenwood confirmed that its force in Indiana is similarly participating. Memphis Police Department stated it received camera feeds from FedEx, but did not confirm if these were provided by Flock. So speaking about networks of license plate readers, a senior staff attorney at the ACLU told Forbes the scale of this kind of surveillance is just incredibly massive. He went on to describe to the outlet how the warrantless monitoring of citizens was quite horrifying. FedEx declined to answer questions about the partnership with Flock, saying in a statement, we take the safety of our team members very seriously. As such, we do not publicly discuss our security procedures. So they're saying, look, it's to protect our drivers and the packages they deliver. That's my way of interpreting what he just said there. But I'm not sure if that is completely, a good answer here. There's no suggestion the partnership is illegal, but some critics have suggested it's flouting the basic tenets of the Constitution. For now, it is currently unclear just how far-reaching the partnership between law enforcement and FedEx actually is, or how much Flock data is being shared. Forbes also found that FedEx is not alone in doing this. Kaiser Permanente, the largest health insurance carrier in the U.S., is also taking part. The company shares data garnered from Flock cameras with the Northern California Regional Intelligence Center, which works with local and federal police investigations of major crimes across California's West Coast. As part of our robust security programs, license plate readers are not only an effective visual deterrent, but the technology has allowed us to collaborate with law enforcement within the parameters of the law, a spokesperson confirmed. The technology has also been used in response to warrants and subpoenas, as well as in other scenarios regarding potential or ongoing crimes on the facility's premises, and it has supported the arrest and prosecution of those committing crimes. Cameras were labeled to disclose the passage by that are being filmed, but she declined to comment when asked about where the company had its cameras deployed. Meanwhile, police around the world over the past few years continue to pick up Flock as a partner with more than 1,800 law enforcement agencies taking part. But that is, again, around the world. Overall, more than 3,000 American communities use Flock technology. Only 10 years since it began in 2014. The firm today is valued at nearly $4 billion. It continues to receive a steady stream of venture capital. A couple of years ago, it raised an astounding $300 million in 7 months, followed by $38 million in February of 23. It uses real-time data to enable and incentivize safer driving. The description on the website says, describing the effort as the world's first fully digital insurance company for connected and autonomous commercial vehicles. To eliminate crime in your community, it also says, and it suggests that you could be doing this, for instance, at a grocery store. And, here's the thing. We talked about this before. There are, traffic cameras, okay? We've talked about these for a long time. Some states have more than others. If my camera that's parked someplace that is triggered by, let's say, a radar device to indicate whether it's driving too fast, snap a picture of your car and your license plate and send you a ticket. Speeding. They're red light cameras. And you go through a light and you don't stop properly, the camera might get triggered, take a photograph of you and your license plate, and send you a ticket. Well, talk about, bridges, where instead of having a person take the tolls, they just simply photograph the car as it goes over, and they send you the bill. And so, it's getting more and more common that things like this are out there. But I remember not too long ago them talking about installing these things in a community in Michigan. And they simply said, look, there's this one major intersection that's like the heart of this particular community. And they go, so many people go through that intersection that we simply installed cameras there and recorded every single car that went through in real time, make, model, color, along with the license plate. It would help us fight crime. Because quite often somebody will say, hey, this person just robbed the gas station and they're driving a 1965 blue convertible Impala. Guess what? A 1965 blue convertible Impala just went through this intersection. So now we know which direction they're going, and when they went to the intersection, we can kind of use that to triangulate where they might have headed, right? And you go, okay, I understand that there's uses for it, but do you really want to be tracked every place you go? And the people who make these decisions are supposed to be weighing this stuff, okay? And generally speaking, the Constitution appears to suggest that when you're fighting crime, you've got to kind of follow the leads, look at the evidence, your suspicions, and then your, your probable cause, and start narrowing down, how you're looking for somebody that way. And these dragnet searches, as they call them, that sweep up everybody. Now, it's true that if no one told you that your car was photographed and identified and then logged someplace, you would never know and it wouldn't actually hurt you. But the fact that they're doing this does raise the issues about Big Brother, okay? And I do think that most people pause when asked, do you want to live in a 100% surveillance state? Everywhere you go, you're being filmed and recorded, documented, and logged with data points. And you'll probably never know about it. It'll probably never affect you. Other than the fact you'll know it's happening. But does that bother you? And I think most people say, yeah, it kind of bothers me. Now, I remember, and I've had this discussion with a good friend of mine, about license plate readers on police cars. Because years ago, they came up with the technology that would allow a police car to be driven through a parking lot. And I realize they put the technology in other cars, but generally speaking, it's a police. And they drive the car through the parking lot, and it's got these cameras that kind of face sideways. And it picks up the information of all the license plates it's being driven past, and it can run the information really, really fast. And they go, oh, there's a vehicle right there that appears to belong or be connected somehow to somebody with an outstanding warrant. That's interesting information to know. And when I first heard about this, I thought to myself, well, you know something? That's not that big of a deal to me. Because a police officer could drive through the parking lot and using his eyes, look at the license plates, and then call them in or type them into a machine or whatever he does to run license plates. And I thought, so all the machine does in this situation, like Reader, is it allows the officer to run them faster and, in essence, process more of them than he could humanly otherwise in the same amount of time. But it's still license plates that are available to be seen by the naked eye. And in the example of a parking lot, it's not at your home, it's at a parking lot. And so it seemed to me, I thought, that's not that bad. It's just the machine making the officer more efficient so he can do more cars that way. And I thought, something, for just one little step right there, I don't see a problem with it. Now I see the problem. Because no matter what you think technology's limits are, it'll go farther. And I remember a time when data, the storage of data, was such a problem that we all thought, no one would ever sweep up everything, because where would you store it all? Oh, it turns out now they've got storage for that. They got storage for that. Not a problem. So the fact that there are, 40,000 cameras across 4,000 cities in 40 different states, sweeping up data continuously. Will they run out of storage space? No. Will they ever get that memory full thing? No. And that is the problem. So I have an issue with this, and I find it concerning. But again, there's nothing illegal about it. But unfortunately, FedEx is a company that I got stuff delivered to recently by FedEx. It does bother me that more and more places are saying, okay, we'll put in cameras and we'll basically connect ourselves to the network, because pretty soon we will live at a point, if nothing stops us, where everywhere you go, you could be on camera being tracked. And don't worry, we'll only use the information under the proper circumstances. And we all know what happens, among other things. Think about all the times you've heard of police officers getting in trouble for running the license plates or driver's licenses of people they felt like looking up. Do they stop the traffic? No. Why are they looking it up? Oh, it's somebody that they're mad at, or it's somebody of the opposite sex that it's no better. No. They look up her driver's license, see where she lives. They just drive by her house now. See if she likes a man in a uniform. So this to me is a concern. So it's where we are right now. We'll see if it keeps creeping in that direction, or maybe we can kind of slow it down. So Blake and a bunch of other people sent that. Thanks a lot. That version is from the Daily Mail by Alex Hammer, but it's reported widely, including in Forbes and the Virginian Pilot. How your FedEx driver is helping the cops spy on you. Questions, comments, put a below. Let's talk to you. I told you there'd be an ad at the end of the video, and here we are, talking about Factor. Factor makes meeting your nutrition goals easier than ever by delivering fresh, never frozen, dietitian-approved meals right to your doorstep. A team of gourmet chefs create each meal using only ingredients with integrity to help you feel your best all day long. And so down in this corner here, I'm going to show the video of me putting the box on the counter when I got it yesterday, slicing it open, pulling out the meals, putting them in the fridge, putting one in the microwave. I'll cook it on camera. You'll see me cook it on camera. You'll see how little effort goes into this. And the meals taste great. And here's the thing. If you wanted to, you buy a cookbook, buy all the ingredients, go do all the shopping, do all the prep, make yourself all these great meals, and then clean up and think about all the time it takes. Who's got that kind of time? And the other day, I had to leave my house. I had 10 minutes. I had to leave my house in 10 minutes, and I actually thought, boy, I wish I'd had time to eat. And I realized, I got a Factor meal in the fridge. Go downstairs, grab it, throw it in the microwave, 2 minutes. 2 minutes later, I pull it out, put it in the counter, let it cool off a little bit, eat it, and I still got out the door in the 10 minutes that I'd given myself to get out the door. So from the moment I conceived, I need to eat, to the moment I was going out the door, still managed to do it in 10 minutes. And it's one of these things, you try it and you do it a couple of times, and you're like, wow, this actually is like transformational with your life when you realize you can get great meals like that in such a short period of time, and they're handy and they're right there for you. So the assortment is also good. I purposely just say, send me an assortment. I'm not gonna sit here and pick and choose. I don't want anybody to say, well, Steve, maybe what meals you pick. No, I say just send me random meals. So tomato, walnut, beef ragu, sun-dried tomato and spinach fusilli, turkey, chili, and zucchini, grilled pork chop and smoked cheddar Polly grits, 3 bean vegan chili, and the one I'm eating on camera, I'm preparing on camera down here, jalapeno lime cheddar chicken. Fantastic meals. And again, I would never make these kind of meals for myself, and I don't have the ability, I don't have the time, and I know darn well if I set out to try to make one of these meals, I'd have to go to the store, buy tons of ingredients, and make a big mess, and cost a lot of money, and I would deem it not worth my time. But here, it's worth my time. In fact, I'm kind of surprised that they got it down to 2 minutes. It's kind of like one of those space age promises that were made back in the old days, like, oh, someday we'll all have jetpacks, right? So, it's unbelievable. So, you get to eat stress-free this summer with Factor's delicious, ready-to-eat meals. But also, you can skip the grocery stores, the prep work, the cooking fatigue, all of that, and you get the chef-craft, dietitian-approved meals delivered right to your door. But keep in mind that I just gave you the assortment there of a few meals. They have over 35 meals to choose from each week, and you can also get options like keto, calorie smart, vegan and veggie, and more. And so what I urge you to do is go check out their website. Head to Factor75.com or click the link below. You can use code LATOSLAW50 to get 50% off your first Factor box and 20% off your next month of orders. Code LATOSLAW50 at Factor75.com to get 50% off your first box, 20% off your next month of orders. But you don't have to buy something by going to check it out. I would urge you to go check it out. Click on the link, go check it out, and see the assortment, the variety, and how you can set these things up. And I'm telling you right now, when I've got these in my fridge, it actually takes a certain amount of stress out of my life, which in the summertime in particular, I like to live stress-free if I can. And knowing I've got these in the fridge, because, you know, otherwise I got to go grocery shopping. And don't get me wrong, I like to go outside and eat people too. But it's so nice to know, oh,
Amazon doesn't sell it, but you can still get yours. Nobody believed these bone conduction headphones would work.
Welcome back to Disturbed Reality. ISIS, also known as the Islamic State of Iraq and Syria, or the Islamic State of Iraq and the Levant, or ISIL, emerged as a powerful and brutal extremist group with radical interpretations of Islam. The origins of ISIS can be traced back to the early 2000s and are deeply rooted in the complex political, social, and historical context of the Middle East, as well as Western intervention, which has destabilized the region further. One of the key factors contributing to the rise of ISIS was the aftermath of the 2003 United States-led invasion of Iraq and the subsequent overthrowing of Saddam Hussein's regime. Naturally, the invasion and the overthrow of Saddam Hussein created a power vacuum and political instability in Iraq, which provided an opportunity for extremist groups to gain a foothold. This affected Sunni Arabs, many of whom were originally funded by US intelligence agencies to fight Al-Qaeda, were then marginalized and excluded from the post-invasion political process, and they would go on to form the core of what would later become ISIS. The origins of ISIS can also be linked to the broader regional dynamics of the Middle East, including the Syrian civil war, which began in 2011 as a popular uprising against President Bashar al-Assad. The civil war would go on to further fuel the rise of ISIS. As the conflict escalated, various rebel groups emerged, including some that eventually pledged allegiance to ISIS. Naturally, the chaos and fragmentation in Syria allowed ISIS to expand its influence and establish a strong presence in the country. Yet again, US funding would once again support the growth of ISIS, whether that be inadvertently or dare I say purposely. The US and the UK, as well as many other Western powers, would fund rebel groups fighting against Bashar al-Assad without the first clue of who they even were or who they were affiliated to. Once again, many who were originally masquerading as rebels would be exposed to the ISIS members. Another critical factor in the origins of ISIS was the ideological and financial support that it received. The group drew inspiration from a distorted interpretation of Islamic teachings, aiming to establish an Islamic caliphate governed by its extremist ideology. This ideology attracted and radicalized individuals from around the world, including foreign fighters such as individuals from the UK, who joined the ranks of ISIS in Iraq and Syria. Moreover, ISIS managed to accumulate substantial financial resources through various means. It took advantage of the oil infrastructure in areas it controlled, engaging in illicit oil trade, extortion, and other criminal activities. Additionally, ISIS obtained significant funding through donations from sympathizers and external networks. The emergence and expansion of ISIS were also facilitated by the effective use of social media and propaganda. The group utilized online platforms such as Twitter, YouTube, and Facebook to spread its extremist ideology, recruit new members, and inspire attacks both in the Middle East and abroad. The sophisticated online propaganda machine of ISIS helped attract a global following and generated a sense of fear and notoriety. In summary, the origins of ISIS can be attributed to a combination of factors, including the power vacuum in Iraq, the Syrian civil war, regional dynamics, ideological and financial supports, and the very effective use of social media. Understanding these complex factors is crucial for comprehending the rise and evolution of ISIS as a significant threat to regional stability and international security. One of the calling cards of ISIS in recent years has been their gruesome propaganda videos that have flooded the internet. Many speculate that the extremist group took inspiration from the State of Mexican cartel execution videos that were released in the late 2000s and early 2010s. Terror groups such as Al-Qaeda and Muntada al-Ansar have frequently used filmed executions, even before the existence of ISIS. During the wars in Iraq and Afghanistan in particular, various videos made their way online depicting horrific beheadings, most notably of Daniel Pearl in 2002 and Nick Berg in 2004, as well as a whole host of others. Interestingly, it is believed that Mexican drug cartels took inspiration from the graphic videos that came out during the War on Terror in the first decade of the 2000s. They saw the effect in which such videos had on the population and the fear that they spread. Drug cartels such as Los Zetas the Gulf Cartel, and others would then adopt similar tactics to Al-Qaeda in regards to gruesome propaganda videos, though they would up the ante, recording even more graphic videos than those that came out of the War on Terror. Instead of just beheadings, cartels would film even more graphic content, such as live dismemberments, castrations, and other horrific acts of cruelty. ISIS would then take note of the depravity perpetrated by Mexican drug cartels on film, though they would add their own flair and pizzazz to their content. As gruesome ISIS videos began to make the rounds online, particularly in the mid-2010s, they became known for their high levels of production value, editing, audio, and graphics. Some videos looked akin to a Hollywood production, such as the Eid al-Adha massacre, also known as the Human Slaughterhouse video, which of course I have previously covered on the channel. Unfortunately,
my friends roasted me for getting scammed into buying a baseball bat flashlight for half price. But once I showed them what it could do, they...
ISIS have a category of incredibly brutal, graphic, and sadistic content, which is all far too easy to find online, which takes us to the topic of today's video. What are the most gruesome videos filmed by ISIS? But nevertheless, let's take a journey into a bottomless abyss of depravity and cruelty. Number 1, the murder of Fabi Amar Zidane. During October of 2015, graphic footage was released by ISIS, which depicted the murder of Fabi Amar Zidane. Fabi was a 19-year-old Syrian soldier who was fighting under the orders of the Bashar al-Assad regime to combat ISIS and various extremist groups. The backstory surrounding the video is murky to say the least, though it is suspected that Fabi was captured after a firefight between the Syrian army and ISIS. The entire video is 2 minutes and 34 seconds in length. The beginning of the video shows the 19-year-old prisoner on his knees, dressed in an orange jumpsuit with his hands tied behind his back, and he confesses in Arabic to being a Syrian soldier named Fabi Amar Zidane from the town of Latakia in Syria. He states, "I joined the army under contract with the Air Force Intelligence. I registered the contract in the airport of Hama, and they sent me to serve in the field of Shair, and I stayed there for 7 months. Then they sent me to an area named Jazil, where I remained for 4 days. Then the Islamic State caught me when I was in the Jazil area. I was a tank driver, and I used a tank to run over the bodies of the Islamic State soldiers." After the victim reads out his statement, the video then transitions and shows an ISIS member in a white robe standing behind him. The man in the white robe reads out a brief statement and says the following: "This apostate, Dirty Nasiri, ran over our brothers who were dead in the tank. So it was decided that he would be run over by the tank while he is indeed alive." For those wondering, the Naziri is a religious group that follows a branch of Shiite Islam. At around 1 minute and 40 seconds into the video, it transitions into a new segment, which is the execution. The video is edited with dramatic music, which resembles a human heartbeat, and it shows the victim, Fabi, walking down a road in one scene, then a tank driving down the road in another. The video transitions again, and you see Fabi standing in the road with his hands tied behind his back and his feet tied together so that he can't run away. The tank drives towards the victim, and as it gets closer, Fabby tries to put out of the way of the tank, though to no avail. The tank tracks then crush Fabby as he tries to get away. Music then starts playing. The camera shot changes, and you get a head-on view of the tank tracks running over the victim. After the tank runs over Fabby, you see 4 armed ISIS members cheer as Fabby's deceased and crushed corpse lays on the road. You then get a close-up of the body. Fabby's legs have been completely crushed. You see his mangled feet and legs, and you see some crushed bone. Fabby's head has also been completely destroyed. It is totally flat, with brain matter, flesh, and pieces of skull on the road. You hear the ISIS members cheer in the background as the video ends. You then get a close-up of the body. Fabby's legs have been completely detanged. As it gets closer, Fabby tries to put out of the way of the tank, though to no avail. The tank tracks then crush Fabby as he tries to get away. Music then starts playing. The camera shot changes, and you get a head-on view of the tank tracks running over the victim. After the tank runs over Fabby, you see 4 armed ISIS members cheer as Fabby's deceased and crushed corpse lays on the road. You then get a close-up of the body. Fabby's legs have been completely crushed. You see his mangled feet and legs, and you see some crushed bone. Fabby's head has also been completely destroyed. It is totally flat, with brain matter, flesh, and pieces of skull on the road. You hear the ISIS members cheer in the background as the video ends. According to news reports, this was the first time that ISIS used the tank as an execution method, though it is said that ISIS now consider it as an official means of execution. Number 2, dismemberment by child soldiers. One of the worst aspects of gruesome ISIS videos online is the frequent